All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here. Thank you so much for tuning in to GSD Interviews. Before we jump into this interview, I want to give our sponsors a quick plug that make this show possible. So our first sponsor is our real estate software, www.perfectstormnow.com, the most affordable and effective lead generation software out there. This isn't just a website. Yeah, we've got a website. Yeah, we've got a blog feature. Yeah, we have testimonials and video client testimonials feature. We have community pages. We have all of the typical website stuff. Where we differentiate ourselves is on the lead generation. We teach you how to lead generate. This system is extremely effective with lead generation. We can teach you how to go out there and generate more leads than you can handle without spending a penny on lead generation, right? Not only, though, do we teach you how to lead generate, not only is it a great website, it's a coaching platform combined with software. So we have two monthly live training sessions that are 2 hours long with myself personally. So we teach you how to use the site, how to generate with the site, how to leverage the site. And it goes deeper than that. Okay, I'm getting all these leads. What do I do? What do I say? How do I convert these leads? So we go and train you and coach you on every aspect of that so you can go out there and dominate it in your business. You have access to me, my developers on a daily basis as a customer of ours. So it's $99 a month, no contracts, no registration fees. It's month to month, $99 a month. You can't beat it, right? So go check us out, www.perfectstormnow.com. Our next sponsor is my personal mentorship. You know, if you're ready to take your business, your life, your career to the next level, we've got my 90-day mastery boot camp, which is a mentorship with me personally. Every single week, it's 3 hours or 2 hours of live coaching and training with me, and then 1 hour of live Q&A. You have daily access to me and our private mastermind. We build out your playbook, every aspect of the residential real estate business, from how to lead generate to how to lead follow-up to how to do your presentations to how to build out your database. We even start talking about how to grow a team, how to hire, how to fire. There's nothing that we do not cover inside that program. Then after the program's done, after the initial 12-week program's done, it's an ongoing platform. It's $50 a month where you have access to me for as long as you want. You know, right? And in that $50 a month program, you guys, I've made that where $50 a month is more powerful than a $1,000 a month coaching program that you can get anywhere else. So we do 4 hours of monthly coaching at $50 a month. So you get 4 hours of live coaching. We have 2 in-person masterminds here in Phoenix, Arizona. They're every 6 months. It's a private mastermind with me and only the alumni bootcamp members that are part of the mentorship. We don't bring in guest speakers. There's nothing to sell. There's none of that crap that we all get at all these other seminars that we go to. You usually go pay $500 to a seminar and they try to sell you a bunch of shit. That's not what this is. This is hardcore masterminding. This is a hardcore mentorship, mastermind, and growth program. So if you guys want to learn more about that, www.90daymastery.com. Hope to see you guys in the program. All right, let's jump on into the interview. Hopefully you enjoy this as much as I did. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Every single week, we interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate agents, and just straight up top badasses out there that are dominating their space. These are people that are choosing not to play small, choosing not to live a life of mediocrity, but instead choosing to go out there and create an epic life. So today, you guys, I got a really an amazing guest. I'm really stoked and honored to have on. This is a very successful real estate agent, entrepreneur, software developer. So honored to have Brett Keppler on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on the podcast.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, man. So, dude, I know you got a lot going on right now. You got a very successful real estate team. You're a software developer, owner. But before we jump into what you're doing today, let's rewind the clocks, man. Let's talk about how this journey began. Like, how did this whole entrepreneurship journey start for you?
Sure. So, I graduated out of college and thought that my path was going to be down that corporate America road. You know, someday I'd be vice president or president of a company, and that's where I saw myself, you know, in 20 years or whatever. And it took me about a year and a half of corporate America to just realize that I hated the idea of a cube. I hated the idea of seniority, the fact that I saw, and this was when the economy was starting to go downhill. So there was a lot of layoffs. I worked for Macy's for a little bit. I worked for another marketing company. So everyone was starting to get laid off. And it really pissed me off the way that they kind of favored the older, I would say less productive, less inspiring generation, rather than someone like myself who they were paying less and I think getting more out of, and was more the future of the company. So in seeing all that happen, I knew pretty early on that, I wanted to have more control of my own destiny rather than put it into the hands of an employer. So it took about a year and a half, for me to finally make the decision that, I'm not cut out for this role. And I started thinking, okay, well, what do I do with my life at this point? And I remember meeting, there were some old gentlemen when I was at the ski lodge, and we were talking about, how they made their wealth, and kind of the any sort of lessons they could teach the younger generation. And there are two things they told me, and one was to get involved in real estate, and the second one I can't remember. So that's why I picked real estate, because I couldn't think of the second one. But basically, I started kind of dabbling into investing. The idea of borrowing money from the bank, and then letting your assets appreciate, and how easy it was going to be that each year we'd get a very stable 3 or 4 or 5% appreciation. I'm in the Midwest, so we didn't see drastic ramp ups in value. But the thought was, okay, I buy one building, then the next, and the next. What all the books teach. So I bought my first 4-family. Shortly thereafter that, lived in one of the units. I saw the job that my real estate agent did, which really wasn't much, and I thought, hey, I could do that. He just walked away with $9,000, and there really wasn't a whole lot to it. So it seemed like one of those professions where you could make a lot of money. There was opportunity to build a big business, and it would tie in to what I was looking to do from the investment side. So I decided to go out and get my real estate license. So I kind of did that on the weekends, and then worked my normal day job, Monday through Friday, until finally I just decided, this was in 2006. So the market was really good, and there was no reason not to get into real estate at that point. So I just decided to put in my notice, with my, with where I was working, and just, figured, hey, I'm either going to make it, or, worst case scenario, I guess I'll go back and get a job. But I really had nothing going for me other than just being really miserable at the place that I was working at. So just jumped in feet first and figured I'm going to either make it or not, and it's worked out pretty well.
So so you have that experience with your real estate agent, and it seems like, okay, hey, they made $9,000 for not doing that much, right?
Right.
When you jumped into space, though, were you shocked by how difficult this industry is? I mean, what was that like? You got 90% of agents that drop out in the first 3 years. So what was that like? First couple years like for you?
So the first couple years were pretty rough. I don't think that I really anticipated, I guess, how much I didn't know at that point. I tried all sorts of creative ideas to generate business and to go after for sale by owners. And I was just hustling, and I was taking every lead, regardless of where it was, regardless of how much it was. And I saw, people who I went into the class with kind of dropping like flies. My first sale was my then girlfriend, now wife. Okay. And I sold her a house like five doors down from me. So I figured if I could sell one property about every quarter, I could at least get by. And I'd saved up some money so I could, kind of just allow myself to make literally nothing for the first year. But, I kind of at least knew in the back of my head, hey, if I can make it, each year is going to get better and better. So if I can just struggle through, put together whatever crap deals I need to just to kind of survive, that I would be okay. And it was just a matter of waiting out the difficulty. So, every day it was in the office. I definitely am coming in a lot earlier now than I used to, but every day it was in the office, coming up with a way to prospect. I think I was in real estate at the right time. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. I had no other responsibilities except, to take care of myself and a dog. So that was very beneficial, but it was really tough. It was extremely hard. I don't think that agents really are prepared coming into it, because no one really tells them the truth about how difficult it is when you're trying to sell real estate, in a town where I had no family here. All my friends had no money. So I really wasn't connected to anything. So I started looking for other opportunities, and I saw a really good opportunity in getting into a guy who had a Fannie Mae account at the time, about a year into my business. And that really changed everything pretty dramatically.
Yep, absolutely, man. What do you feel before we jumped into the REO space? I mean, what do you
Sure.
feel was that biggest obstacle? I mean, somebody that we get a lot of
Yeah.
listeners that listen to the show that are in the corporate world that are getting ready to jump into real estate. Like, what was that biggest obstacle that you think they should be prepared for?
Well, what I tell people now, because I have a lot of people who see what I'm doing and they ask, hey, I want to get into real estate. How did you do it? Where should I go? And I always try everything I can to talk them out of it, because you really need that attitude of, you know what, screw you, I'm going to do it regardless of what you say in order to really survive. I think the biggest obstacle, it's one of two things. If you're married and you have a family, the biggest obstacle is that you're going to have to put work ahead of your family for the better part of the first 2 years. It's just, unfortunately, work-life balance is sometimes work, sometimes life. And if you're going to get into real estate, it's going to have to be work for a while. So making sure that your family understands that, making sure that your spouse understands that, and that you're not going to feel guilty, and that you're actually, going to have to sacrifice. I think that's the biggest obstacle for people that are at my stage of life right now. When I was in the business, I think the biggest obstacle was that I had more people asking how old I was and what I really knew about selling houses. So it's making sure that you present yourself in a manner that is consistent with the fact that you are successful. So what I tell the agents on my team is that, you cannot let anyone know, friends, family, sphere, that you're struggling, that you just have to project success, I guess, from start to finish, and not let people kind of see through the cracks, or else they're not going to trust you. It's hard enough to get your own family to work with you when they know that, you're a month out of your real estate classes. So you really just have to make sure that, you're selling the fact, people on the idea that you are successful, and that they can trust you and that you will get them a successful outcome with their home.
Yep, love it, man. So, okay, so you jump into the REO space, and I mean, I was heavy in the REO space as well. We were repping 38 banks, and it was a love-hate relationship,
Yep.
right? What I loved about it, though, is it really taught you to create amazing systems, right?
Right.
But before we get into systems, and because I know your software has to do with systems, how did you get into there,
Yep.
get established there? Well, we saw a lot of these REO agents that then couldn't shift with the shifting market. These big REO agents that then just collapsed. So how did you make that transition back
Sure.
into your traditional business?
Sure. So, the one thing that I knew going into it was that the whole REO thing was going to be a phase. It was going to be I thought it was going to be more like a 3 to 5 year phase. It was maybe a 7 to 8 year phase. But, I partnered up with a guy, and I primarily, built systems and make sure that things were operating properly. But we had people kind of working under him, where he was really the one who had the relationships with the banks. I was sort of there as just a manager of operations, but I still maintain relationships with investors. I would still work with buyers at the time. And this is in the very beginning as we kind of grew. So I made sure never to take my time away from working with normal buyers and sellers. So even though I didn't do as much traditional business back then as I do now, I kept up the database, I kept up the marketing. I knew that was a segment that I just had to maintain, or else once this REO bubble burst, I'd be screwed. And that was one of those things in the back of my head that I always sort of feared coming. So I wanted to make sure that, that when the time did come that the REOs were gone, that, yeah, I could, I could still progress in my business the way it's already been built. So, there was I guess there was a time where myself and this guy that I was partners with, and this, the banks started having much higher expectations for their agents. They wanted you to act like a traditional agent. They wanted you to cater to, the wants and needs of buyers and agents, as if they were paying you a lot more money and asking you to do a lot less. And there's a lot of the old time REO agents that just couldn't, grasp that. And, they're used to being in complete control and assholes, for lack of a better word, I guess. And trying to change an asshole into someone who cares about, the agent and the buyer just doesn't happen, very easily. So, I was smart enough that once we separated and I took over the REO business, I brought someone else in to manage the REO business who is familiar with REO. So I think it's, having a general awareness of the ups and downs of the real estate market and employing people to kind of take on those segments and help you diversify was really, I think, one of the reasons why I survived the REO bubble, and why I was able to take this team of buyer agents who are used to running, REO properties and be able to generate enough traditional leads to help support them, as well as to keep my own business running and keep my own mortgage paid. So it was definitely an interesting transition. It continues to be an interesting transition for sure. But yeah, diversification has been a big theme, I guess, throughout my entire real estate business, because I'm always afraid of the next thing being pulled out from underneath me.
Yep, love it, man. So, because I mean, at some point, REO will be back, right? It's not one of those things of is it going to happen? It's just when is it going to happen? These cycles always happen. Like, what's the one thing? Because I mean, when REO is happening, it's so crazy. All of a sudden, you're getting 90 assignments a month, and you don't have time to think. But then when it's over, we're all sitting back reflecting. Like, what's like the biggest mistake that you feel like you made that you didn't capitalize on? If this comes around again, that you're going to make sure you do.
One of the big changes that I made about 6 months ago. I mean, one thing that I did that I wish I could have gone back and changed was I really held on too long. Because you see so many ups and downs, you don't know if you're in a down and it's going to go back up, or if you're in a down, it's going to stay down. And, I knew that I had to shift my business to where, I had, I think at the highest point, we had maybe 12 people on payroll. Majority of those were salary. There were a few that were a per property thing, but we had a pretty large operation. And, I think that with such high fixed costs, as the market declined, I didn't have anything built into my business where my costs would scale down. So about 6 months ago, I transitioned it over to where most people are now getting paid as the REOs go up, because we still have a small amount. Really, we've transitioned a lot of that into rentals. I can't take all the credit for that by any means. There's someone on my team who has really helped to make that happen. But I think if we build this business to where when we make more money, we all win, and when we make less money, we all lose. That's the smarter way to build an REO business that's only going to be around for a short time frame. So that's what I would change.
Yep, love it, man. So let's transition. I mean, what is so? REO's done. You made that transition very successfully into a traditional business again. What does your business look like today? What's your structure look like, and
Sure.
what's your business made up of today?
So the business today, we still have the REO department, but that's also rentals, and that's one where, as the owner of the brokerage, I kind of have someone else that I just essentially gave that to, and they're working, with me. I'm still, the name on the accounts, and still have a little bit of oversight, but for the most part, that's independent. So there's a group over there of about 5 people that are still maintaining that operation. I have, 6 buyer agents. 5 that are here in Cincinnati. Well, I guess technically I have 6 here in Cincinnati. I have 1 team that's 2 agents. And then we have 1 up in Dayton, Ohio, which is a town north of Cincinnati. And then I have a marketing manager slash a lead generation manager. And then I have a personal assistant. And then I have just someone that works for general administration for the brokerage. So we still have a nice operation, but our numbers have definitely gone down in terms of number of sales. We did just shy of 30 million in sales last year. This year, we're probably projected to do more, just because our traditional business is going to be much better than it was last year. And, again, part of that too is just kind of refocusing on, instead of just shoving as many nuts in your mouth as you can, like you did in the REO, market, where it's just, you're kind of just trying to survive that storm. We're actually doing more to implement sound business practices with the team. So getting the buyer agents really developed to where, they're boosting their business. Because if I can get all 6 of them to increase by 20%, then I've just doubled their own, revenue from a year ago. So I think there's a lot more focus on the traditional side. We're doing all the normal stuff. We're, touching people so many times a month, and we're doing more prospecting than we ever did. But the nice thing is that I think our profitability is so much higher, than it used to be. Our fixed costs are way down. Even our variable costs are way down. Because if as you recall, it got to a point where it was very little money, a whole lot of work, and your margins were so thin, it just couldn't work unless you had a significantly large amount of property. So last year wasn't good from an expense standpoint. So I'm excited this year that the additional income that we have, we can put into new and kind of cool practices for generating more business.
Yep, I love it. And that's what a lot of agents don't always understand. That they see these big production agents, but I'm like, man, I know so many massively productive agents, or they're doing mass amounts out there, but they're broke. Right? They don't understand those costs. So sometimes less can mean more profitability, and people have a hard time grasping that. So, what's your personal involvement, man? Are you still taking listings, or are you just solely
Yeah.
the CEO at this point?
No, so I'm still I'm primarily working with sellers. I would say just over the past year, with my other new business that I'm running, I see, instead of being maybe 90%, sales, 10% software, it's slowly, kind of shifting from one to the next. So, I would say that I'm still pretty active in real estate, but it seems like every month I'm dedicating more time to the software, so it's making it more difficult to keep it all, together. So I am in the process of looking to bring people on who can help transition out of, or help me to transition out of that kind of listing lead role. Because the goal would be that I can still spend, a few hours a week helping to kind of mentor and develop people, but totally step away from the business. So we're, part of this year again, it's looking at, what are those systems that we're putting in place? What's the, what kind of discipline do we have with generating leads? Are we conveying the right messages? Is every system that we have, squared away and really solid so that I can step away and know that we're still providing kind of the consistent type of results that I knew that I was doing when I was, much more engaged with the team.
Yep. So I know you're a big systems guy, right? So
Yeah.
and so many people, or so many agents, even though they need to start a team, they're at a point where they want to start a team, they don't do it because they're like, I don't want to manage these people. I'm like, if you got great systems in place, you don't manage the people, you manage the systems. They manage and empower the people. So, let's go into systems, man. Let's start talking about systems, maybe some of the systems that you operate, and even the software that you've created.
Sure. Well, coming out of REO, that's where it was just complete chaos. And we went from, in a very short period of time, working out of fax machines solely with all of our deals going in and out, to learning their new software that they're trying to roll out. And it was crazy. And the only way that, especially being in the Cincinnati market where our average sale price was like $62,000, you had to do a lot of volume in order to make any money. So for us, it was, okay, well, how can we be smarter? How can we, cut out some of the workload? So by really being kind of head down in that business for 5 years, it was all about thinking, okay, how can we make this more and more efficient? And every time they wanted us to do more stuff or they wanted to reduce the pay, it was, okay, how can we, what can we cut? And how can we reduce our time? So it seemed like every year we were, digging deeper and deeper and figuring out a better way to do things. And I think that just carried through, that once I took a look again at the traditional marketplace and I realized that most agents have no systems, that they just kind of wake up every day and pray that the deals go through like they should, I knew that this group of realtors is being massively underserved with a lot of the options available today. So, we've used everything under the sun. I mean, we currently use Follow Up Boss to manage, all of our incoming leads. We used Top Producer for a long time, but that just turned into a glorified database that I was, dropping a lot of money on and just hated. And every time I tried to get one of my assistants, or I try to force them to use Top Producer, it just caused, drama, and they would hate it. So we tried Top Producer, we got rid of that. Big fan of DocuSign, so we use them instead of Dotloop's actually out of Cincinnati as well. There's some issues I have with Dotloop in terms of some of the control that you lose by using Dotloop. And then really with our CRM, we do a lot of things manually. We use MailChimp for all of our emailing, and we kind of have a calendar that we put together in an Excel spreadsheet that says this is when we're going to send things out. We're getting much more active in social media. But I don't use the normal CRM that reminds me to maybe reach out to this guy or anything like that. Follow Boss does a good job of kind of helping us funnel, prospects, down into solid leads. And then most of what we do is just sort of the after sale or past client type of marketing. We don't use a CRM for that. We just we just roll things out every week, based on our Excel calendar. So, the one thing that I couldn't really find, and part of what inspired me to create my own software, was something that could essentially replace my assistant or provide some sort of guidance or accountability for my assistant. So there's really nothing that just said, okay, these are the steps we follow for every listing. These are the steps we follow for every closing. And instead of me having to come in and talk about where are we on the file, or instead of us having a paper checklist, taped every file, or using some Excel spreadsheet that really didn't tell you when to do things, you just had to go in and look throughout the day of kind of where you are, and things would get missed. And that was the one area of my business that I guess I didn't have a good system for, and it bugged me because really everything else was taken care of. I tried literally everything. My goal was not to build a system because it's a heck of a lot more money than I ever set out to spend. And it continues to be a lot more money than fortunately my wife is very, very, I guess, accepting of this lifestyle because she's the one who manages the money and she cuts the checks. And sometimes I feel like she looks at me like, what are you doing? But, it's just a monster. But but we're getting great traction now that it's all working out. But that was kind of the one area where, I knew that I had to create something. And that's where Next came from.
So is it specific to the contract to close, or does it encompass more?
Yeah, well, so it started out really being, kind of paperwork to close. So the way that I look at it is you have your CRM where, you're trying to get people from prospect to client. And then you go into your, paperwork storage and signage software like DocuSign or Dotloop when you actually execute paperwork and store stuff. But then you have this, 6-month period if it's a listing, or this 45-day period if it's a closing, where there really wasn't anything that was making sure that, my assistant never screwed up. There was nothing to make sure that my client always knew what they had to do. That whole middle area was just chaos. And, we tried using other systems and just nothing worked well. So I thought, okay, let me take all these great pieces that I've seen from some other systems and simplify it into this one. And then I'm also going to add this feature, this feature, this feature. And then, once your mind kind of lives in that task management, perspective for so long, you start getting other ideas. And, what's kind of cool is the fact that we're eating our own dog food, essentially. We get to utilize the system ourselves. We know what sucks. We know what we want to improve. And also we have, good ideas that come out of, oh, I wish Next could do this. Oh, okay, let me see, what it would take to get that done. So we're kind of there in between, you've signed the paperwork and you close. But now I have people using it and actually we're using it for this as well. They're using it as just reminders to follow up with sellers or buyers, so it's not your typical drip. It's just, hey, set this up so that every week I'm calling or I'm emailing or something, and it's saying, do this, that, or the other. We have it for if we have a new buyer agent that comes on. We have a checklist that just says, here's all the 30 things that you got to do for this guy to make sure they have business cards, they're on the website, that they have their license set up, that they've been trained on this program, they have these logins. So we're using it for that. People are using it for open houses. So literally everything in your business should be a system. Everything can be a checklist. And we're sort of expanding Next to not only get into all those different types of checklists that are out there, but also we're now taking it to, okay, wouldn't it be great if someone could come in and run your checklist for you? So kind of our next big phase is moving into the transaction coordinator space and say, every agent really deserves an assistant and can use an assistant. So let's figure out how we can now bring those people that have checklists or don't and combine them with people that want to provide that service for a small fee. So it's kind of neat to see how things have progressed from what was originally just going to be a contract to closing to, wow, this can do all your business and then maybe even give you a way out of your business, essentially, during the same time where these checklists are executed.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. And you hit on this when we were talking about the RAO, but without systems, man, your life is chaos, and it's so ungodly critical. And I look, because I find myself working out of 5 Google, Docs, right? So it's just, It's a mess, man. So I love that, dude. So going back to you personally, man, we find so often that good becomes the worst enemy to greatness. It's so easy to get comfortable, right? And settle for good enough. I mean, you're doing 30 million plus a year in production. You've got a lot of things going on. I mean, you could just kind of step back, just kind of start coasting, hang out with the family a little bit, more. I mean, what keeps you driving, dude? What keeps you not settling for good enough and chasing greatness?
I think it's a fear of, even though things are going well, I fear change, and I fear not being in control of my future. And what I tell people around here whenever they talk about their marketing plan or what it's, hey, be prepared that if I die, if I win the lottery, you guys, Trio, which is my brokerage, is done. There's no one here to run it without me. So make sure you're doing everything, with the anticipation that one day I might be gone. And I kind of look at that as, my own business. What happens if one of my agents screws up, all of a sudden I'm sued, and that's gone. So it's all about so that's part of it is kind of that fear of just getting complacent that keeps me moving. But then what I've also learned about myself is that I get really bored once things get very monotonous. Once we start getting into a routine, and this is, I kind of went through this. I think part of the reason why I started Next as well is that things were getting almost too predictable. It was just going through the motions, and I felt like I turned off the part of my brain that was creative and likes to think, because I don't enjoy the real estate side nearly as much as I do the brainstorming, the thinking, and the creating. My hugs have gone from very excited hugs, yay, I'm so happy for you, and oh yeah, I get a commission check, to okay, let's go through the motions and just send me the check whenever you want. I've lost I guess the drive that gets me excited about those moments. And there's some agents that love that, and they're so happy for their clients, which I'm very happy for them. But it just after a while, it's so predictable. I know they're going to be happy. I know this is going to work out the way it's supposed to. There's no surprises there. So for me, I even know with Next, there's a good chance that 5 years into Next, I'm going to come up with something else. So for me, it's not so much about the money. The money will come and all that. But I think I want to be able to be doing something with my life that's creative and that's fulfilling, personally, rather than just what others may think is a comfy life.
Yeah, love it, man. So I can see the picture behind you. It looks like that's your wife and a couple little ones there.
Yeah, I got that's outdated. I got one more, and that wasn't placed there strictly for efforts. But yeah, it's a little dusty too. But that's them.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So one thing that so many people struggle with is and you talked about earlier with the work-life balance and getting that buy-in, and and then we see this all the time too, of these uber successful entrepreneurs, but then they're divorced, they don't know their kids. So how do you keep it all together? Because there's that balance, but obviously you do have to give them some attention. I mean, what does that look like, and what kind of advice would you give for others to be able to be successful with that?
Sure. So the one thing that I try to promote is it's at least in the real estate business, and really in any business, is you got to be able to work from anywhere and be efficient from anywhere. I mean, back in the day, I would carry around a little portable scanner so that, as I was signing documents, I didn't have time to run to the office and scan stuff in. We'd sign it, it would go through, it would take, a minute per page, because these scanners sucked back in the day. And I would set this whole operation. I'd be plugged into my BlackBerry, and that would be tethering. I mean, it was crazy. But it was all about what are the conveniences. What do I need to do to be able to work solely off of my smartphone? Because there were times where I would have to hide the fact that I'm working from my family. So I got to get an email back. I got to do this. Whatever it might be. Invest in your ability to work from anywhere, so that you can plug in those little, the little bits of work that might need to still happen throughout the day without telling your wife, hey, sorry, I got to run the office, or, physically sitting in front of your big desktop computer, where that just becomes a place of hatred. It's a lot easier to just run downstairs into your basement, shoot out a quick emails, come back with a hammer, and, she doesn't know the difference. So I think a big part of what, spouses or families want is to know that you're also focused on them. But in real estate, it's really hard to do that. I'm a big believer in, taking, at least one day off during the weekend of not doing any work. So, making sure that you do carve out time and you stay pretty consistent with that. And if you let your clients know that, this is how you work, as long as you set expectations, there's no drama. I think the problem with most agents when it comes to feeling an obligation to work all the time is that they don't know how to set proper expectations, with their clients, and they bring drama into, their own business. It's really easy to keep it out. You just got to be straight up and pretty transparent about how you operate, and they're going to be fine with it. So it's always a challenge, work-life balance. You're never going to get it right. If you like what you're doing, it's more like life balance, and this is just life instead of work. I know there's people that use that, that play on words or whatever you call it all the time, that it's not work if you love it. It's more, where's your focus? Is it you focus on your work, you focus on your family? So, you just got to do the best you can. I also work a lot of, fortunately I have family that goes to bed early. My wife would go to bed early. So there was a lot of times where, I'd be, from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m., getting work done so I can make it home by 6, do the whole, dinner thing, help put the kids to bed. So, you just got to figure out how to make it work.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep. No, I love it, man. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is success doesn't come out sacrifice, but you do get to choose what you're going to sacrifice, right? I mean, you're going to watch TV, you're going to go to happy hour, or you're going to get intentional about the things that matter.
Yeah, no, I have no hobbies, and I have no problem drinking alone, by myself, because, who else can have a beer at the 11 o'clock at night, on a Tuesday, in your living room. So there's nothing wrong with that, just so that other people watching, are aware.
Yep, love it, man. So, what are all leaders are readers, right? So it's one of those things where I can tell, you're a very sharp guy, so I know you probably take your self-development intentionally and to the next level. What are some of the things that you do self-develop to make sure that you're growing in that part of your life?
Sure. I think that it's important that you get into some sort of a daily routine for just being aware of what's going on outside you. As much as I'd love to live in a little bubble, and I think I've created a little bit of a bubble around me, but I think you also need to be aware of what's happening out in the industry. So, I subscribe to some daily, industry, articles that and some different sites that will send me information every morning. I peruse those. I read the ones I think are interesting. And I think that helps just give me an understanding about what's happening out there. And then I think, the other thing is just you learn more from doing than you do from anything else. So I kind of let those, my daily emails that come in with information, they take me on a little rabbit hole. I end up watching some guy's video about what he does for, prospecting or FSBOs or, inside sales or whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, cool, we're going to execute on this. And then we meet with the team. We're going to throw this idea out there. We're going to see how it works. We're going to tweak it. What's really been awesome is, I've done a lot of learning with my software. I went through an accelerator, with it. And I'm taking actually a lot of the kind of the startup principles that they teach really on the software side. And all that's being brought into onto the real estate side. So, everything I'm doing for, lead generation, from that side of things, we're really kicking the real estate side into gear and kind of modeling the two. So I have a lot of shared accounts where I'm running 2 companies within the same account, but it just seems so much smarter. And this isn't something that's really being taught to real estate because, as real estate's always 10 years behind what everything else is happening. So I think it's kind of giving me a leg up to get into a new space and a new industry, just because I'm learning some real cutting edge stuff that I think is really helping us to stand out, in the market here. But there's people that read a lot, and I think reading is obviously important. I think it's better to just go out and do and execute and learn, because as we're trying to roll out some new strategy, then I'm going out and I'm trying to pull from everywhere to figure out how other people are doing it. So I'm kind of doing more of a pulling in information to learn rather than going out and say just reading a book and hoping that it inspires me or something of that nature.
Yeah, love it, man. So you talk about the real estate industry being 10 years behind. And there's a lot of people out there that think that the real estate agent could become obsolete in the future. I was on a panel the other day with some other top producing agents. It was real estate survival, like how to not allow technology to replace us. What are some things that you see, in your opinion, that if agents don't adapt to pretty soon, that they are going to become obsolete?
Well, I don't think agents are ever going to become obsolete. I think they're just going to change, the role they provide. I think that when you see all these power companies like Redfin or Zillow, they've started out with people worried that they're going to replace the traditional agent. What they've learned is that there's this mass of people that really control sales and how they exist, and we need to cater those people. So Redfin's done a total 180 with how they were originally structured in the very beginning. Zillow is now trying to befriend and become best friends with every realtor out there. So they understand that the realtor is not going away anytime soon. And I think unless people start getting in the habit of selling houses much more frequently, or houses start becoming very similar, there's just way too much uncertainty. So I think that there's always going to be a room for the realtor. Where I think there's a massive shift going on right now is people forming some type of a team whether it's just hiring an assistant or whether it's putting together a mega team with 5 buyer agents and things like this. But you're creating all these little mini businesses that are so much more efficient, so much more powerful, have much more resources, and they're going after the same listings that individual agents are. So I think if an agent was smart, they would figure out, whether teaming up with somebody makes sense, whether getting someone who's more of a junior agent to come and help them run leads, that helps them really treat the business as a business, not just simply working in the business and kind of doing what falls on your lap, or going through the motions as if you were a buyer's agent of some kind. I think those groups are going to continue to take up market share, and you're likely going to have a smaller number of real estate agents, over time, because you're going to have a group of 5 that can do 500 transactions, and there was never a time where really there was one agent doing 100. It just the efficiencies aren't there. So I think if an agent's smart, they will either figure out how to turn themselves into a team and get some administrative support, or they'll go join a team until they have kind of a better understanding of what it takes to run a team, make sure it's right for them. The one thing I've definitely learned is that, creating and running a team is not for everybody. I used to think everyone wanted to duplicate, what I've done. What I've learned is that nobody wants, what I've done. So I must not be selling it that well. I think if you can treat this like a business instead of just, a job that you're doing for somebody else, you will be successful, and you'll survive everybody else that doesn't do that.
Love it, man. So a couple last questions for you. But before I dive into those, I want to make sure that our listeners know where to go check out your software, because it's something that every agent needs out there. We have to have brilliant. If you don't have brilliant systems, you are not going to have a brilliant business, period. So I want to make sure that they know where to go check it out. So what's the best way to learn more about that?
So the best way, go to nextapp.com, and unfortunately it's got a weird spelling, but it's NEKSTAPP.com, or you can just type in the word Next, NEKST real estate. There's a graffiti artist who is also named Next, so I'm not that guy. But other than that, if you type in, Next, NEKST, you'll find our site. And then, we have free accounts that you can start out with to test it, to see if it works. If you want to, upgrade, we do have, single agent accounts. We have team accounts. So if you're part of a team, it's a great low cost way to just manage all the processes amongst your team. And we just actually about a few days ago rolled out a transaction management version. So if you're a transaction coordinator and you want to start supporting other agents, we have an account type that's perfect for you to kind of help you launch that business.
Yep, that's awesome, man. Love it. So, and you guys that are watching or listening to this, the link will be below in the comment section, so you can just click that link right there. So, all right, man, let's say something happens and you get totally financially wiped out. You lose everything. You're having to start from scratch on your own. I mean, your family's good, your health's good, but you've retained all this knowledge, everything that you know now from all these years of being in the business. What are the first couple things you'd immediately do to go out there and rebuild, knowing what you know now?
So in real estate, if I were to start all over, okay, let's say I had no money, I would go and find a real estate team that I respected, because they're going to give you business day one, and they're going to give you opportunity day one. They're going to give you the money that you need to help brand yourself. And I would and plus you can learn from all these different guys. I mean, there's still a lot of teams or team leaders I meet with who are they're doing everything different, but they're all super successful. That the one thing that I wish maybe existed more was the ability to mastermind with some of these, top agents. But if you can go and join a team and just say, hey, I'm going to work my butt off. I don't care how much commission I give you, because I'm here to just learn, build a database, build some relationships, and then one day either get to the point where you're almost like a team under his team, or you go out and you create your own team. I think that the fastest way for you to get to get success and build up some funds to do your own thing would be to join someone who's already successful. So any new agent, that's what I recommend they do. Whatever training is being offered by a brokerage, it's not going to be a real mentorship. It's not going to be anything that's very cutting edge, or is going to have a direct impact with, I think what you're going to be going through over the first 6 months. But that's how I would get back into the game. If let's say I moved to some other state and I had no connections with anybody, that's where I would go.
Yep, love it, man. So, our listeners that are listening to this podcast, I mean, they're going out there and trying to create something like you've created, right? They want to go out there and improve their lives, improve their businesses, and create something epic. So, with that being said, man, coming from a guy that's done it, that's been in the trenches, and that has built, an amazing business. You're not some guy blowing smoke or from theory, which we see all the time in our industry. What's some, last maybe words of wisdom or advice or inspiration that you'd like to leave our listeners with so they can go out there and create that epic life and business that they know they want?
So, I would say that real estate is not rocket science. It's really pretty simple. And some of the most successful people that you'll ever meet simply put in the time to prospect. And we all hate prospecting. I hate prospecting. Nobody likes it. But if you're really serious about being successful, all it takes is picking up the phone and calling people. There's such a great opportunity in real estate that if you do anything else, figure out how you can get yourself and your personality to work with putting in the boring, tedious, I guess prospecting that needs to happen. Don't be afraid of rejection, but just go out and create your own success. You are in control of your destiny. You're in control of how much money you make. There's agents out there making a ton of money who are total idiots. Okay. I meet them all the time. If they can do it, there's absolutely no reason why anyone can't get into this game and be successful. So that's what I would say is just don't give up. Just put forth more effort and the right amount of effort, and it'll be so easy for you to sleep at night, and for everyone that you're associated with to sleep at night, because you're going to be financially well off in such a short amount of time.
Yep. Love it, man. Powerful words, brother. So, our listener base, you guys, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is just the start of delusion. Information's not power. It's taking that information, implementing on it, taking action on it, right, which creates power in our world. So make sure you take something that Brett taught you today, that he dropped so many golden nuggets. Take something, take action on it now, implement right now, and go out there and create that life that you want and deserve. And Brett, man, I really appreciate you being here, dude. This has been been a lot of fun. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much. This is great.
Yeah, you got it, my friend. All right, you guys, we will see you next time.